You pull into a petrol station, fill your tank, and drive away. The whole thing takes 3 minutes. But the fuel that just went into your car, where did it actually come from? Not the country named on the pump, not even the refinery that processed it. I mean, where did it really come from at the very beginning? The answer starts somewhere you have almost certainly never thought about. It starts at the bottom of the ocean, kilometers beneath the surface of the sea, in rock formations that were laid down over millions of years, in reservoirs of crude oil that have never seen sunlight, never been touched by human hands, until engineers figured out how to reach them. Today, we are going to follow a single barrel of oil on its complete journey, from the moment it is extracted from beneath the seabed, all the way to the moment it powers your car, your plane, or the factory that made your phone. It is one of the most complex logistical journeys in human history, and it happens millions of times every single day. Before we follow the journey, let us spend 60 seconds understanding what oil actually is, because most people have a completely wrong picture of it. Oil does not sit in underground caves or lakes. There is no vast underground sea of liquid waiting to be pumped out. Crude oil exists inside rock, specifically inside the tiny pores and gaps within certain types of rock. The same way water exists inside a sponge. The rock is solid, but saturated with oil, trapped in microscopic spaces. These oil-bearing rock formations were created over hundreds of millions of years. Ancient marine organisms, plankton, algae, microscopic sea creatures, died and sank to the ocean floor. Layer upon layer of sediment buried them deeper and deeper. Under enormous heat and pressure, over millions of years, that organic material transformed into hydrocarbons, the molecules that make up crude oil and natural gas. The oil then migrated through porous rock until it became trapped beneath an impermeable layer, a geological cap that stopped it moving further. This is called a reservoir. It is not a cave. It is a formation of rock that is, in geological terms, soaked in oil. The offshore platforms we see rising from the ocean are not sitting on top of oil. They are the surface infrastructure for wells that go straight down through the water, through the seabed, and deep into the rock below, sometimes 3, 4, or 5 kilometers below the ocean floor, to reach those reservoirs. That is where our barrel of oil begins. Reaching the oil requires one of the most impressive pieces of engineering on Earth, the offshore drilling rig. A drilling rig does not simply push a pipe straight down. The drill string, a series of connected steel pipes that can extend kilometers, rotates at the bottom, where a drill bit cuts through rock. Modern drill bits are extraordinary pieces of technology. They are studded with synthetic diamonds or tungsten carbide teeth, designed to cut through rock formations that took millions of years to form. They are cooled and lubricated by drilling fluid, a specially engineered mixture that also carries the rock cuttings back up to the surface. The drilling process for a deep offshore well can take months. The well is cased in steel, a steel tube that lines the entire borehole from surface to reservoir, cemented in place, sealed against the rock to prevent any leaks or collapse. One of the most critical pieces of equipment in the entire operation sits on the seabed itself, the blowout preventer. This is a stack of enormous hydraulic valves that can seal the well instantly if pressure builds dangerously. The Deepwater Horizon disaster in 2010, the largest accidental oil spill in history, happened when a blowout preventer failed. Every offshore well in the world today is engineered with multiple redundant systems to prevent exactly that. Here is something that surprises most people. A single offshore platform does not drill one well straight down. Using directional drilling technology, engineers can steer the drill bit sideways, changing direction underground, and reach multiple reservoirs from a single platform. Some platforms have dozens of wells radiating outward beneath the seabed, like the roots of a tree, accessing oil spread across a wide area without needing multiple surface structures. Once the well reaches the reservoir, the real production begins. Crude oil in a reservoir is under enormous natural pressure. The weight of kilometers of rock above it has compressed it for millions of years. When engineers open the well, that pressure drives the oil upward. In the early life of a well, the oil literally flows to the surface on its own. At the wellhead, either on the seabed for subsea wells or on the platform deck for simpler configurations, sits a piece of equipment called the Christmas tree. It is named for the way its valves and fittings branch out from a central pipe. The Christmas tree controls the flow of oil and provides the critical safety valves that can shut the well if anything goes wrong. From the wellhead, the oil travels up risers, flexible or rigid pipes that connect the seabed to the production platform above. On the platform, the oil arrives, mixed with gas, water, and sediment. It has to be separated. The platform's processing equipment, separators, treaters, dehydration units, strip out the natural gas, the water, and any contaminants. The gas is either captured for sale, re-injected into the reservoir to maintain pressure, or, in some cases, unfortunately, flared. What remains after separation is crude oil, but it is still far from ready for your fuel tank. It needs to travel thousands of kilometers before it reaches a refinery, and that journey requires infrastructure on a scale that is almost impossible to imagine. From the offshore platform, crude oil has two ways to begin its journey to land. The first, and most common for large operations, is the subsea pipeline. Steel pipes, coated in concrete for weight and protection, laid on the ocean floor by specialist pipe-laying vessels. These pipelines can run for hundreds of kilometers across the seabed, connecting platforms to onshore terminals without a tanker ship in sight. The North Sea has one of the most complex subsea pipeline networks in the world. Thousands of kilometers of pipe on the ocean floor, connecting fields across British, Norwegian, and Danish waters to terminals on the UK and Norwegian coastlines. The UAE's Dars Island, which we covered in our very first video, sits at the center of a submarine pipeline network that collects oil and gas from fields spread across Abu Dhabi's offshore waters. For platforms that are too remote or too small to justify a dedicated pipeline, the alternative is a floating storage and offloading vessel. An FSO. This is essentially a large ship, permanently moored beside the platform, that stores crude oil until a tanker arrives to collect it. Once crude oil reaches an onshore terminal, it enters the land pipeline network. These pipelines are enormous, some over a meter in diameter, carrying crude across deserts, mountains, and plains. The Trans-Arabian pipeline once carried oil from Saudi Arabia's eastern province across Jordan to the Mediterranean. The Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline carries Azerbaijani crude from the Caspian Sea through Georgia to the Turkish coast, nearly 1,800 kilometers. Inside these pipelines, a remarkable maintenance process happens regularly. Engineers send devices called pigs through the pipes, cylindrical tools that travel with the oil flow, cleaning the pipe walls, detecting corrosion, measuring wall thickness, and sending data back to engineers. A pipeline can be inspected, cleaned, and monitored from the inside without ever stopping the flow of oil. At the onshore terminal, crude oil is loaded onto tanker ships, and this is where the global nature of the oil trade becomes visible. The ships, used to carry crude oil across oceans, are among the largest moving objects ever built. Very large. Crude carriers, VLCCs, are over 300 meters long and can carry 2 million barrels of crude oil in a single voyage. Ultra-large crude carriers are even bigger. So large they cannot fit through the Suez Canal and must sail around the Cape of Good Hope. The strategic importance of certain shipping routes is made clear when you look at where tankers must travel. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, is the most important oil choke point in the world. Roughly 20% of all global oil trade passes through it. At its narrowest point, it is only 33 kilometers wide A tanker carrying crude from Abu Dhabi or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia exits the Gulf through Hormuz, then heads east to Japan, South Korea, China or India, or west through the Red Sea and Suez Canal toward European refineries. These voyages take weeks. A tanker from the UAE to Japan takes approximately 20 days. From the Gulf to Europe via Suez takes around 25 to 30 days. During the voyage, the crude oil sits in the tanker's cargo tanks, enormous compartments inside the hull carefully maintained at the right temperature and pressure to prevent the lighter fractions from evaporating. When the tanker arrives at the refinery terminal, it moors alongside a jetty and crude oil is pumped directly into the refinery's storage tanks. The barrel that started deep beneath the seafloor is now about to be transformed. Crude oil is not useful on its own. It is a mixture of hundreds of different hydrocarbon molecules, from very light gases to very heavy tars, all jumbled together. A refinery's job is to separate them and then chemically transform them into the specific products the world needs. The first step is fractional distillation. Crude oil is heated to over 350 degrees Celsius and fed into a distillation tower, a tall column where different molecules separate based on their boiling points. The lightest fractions, gases like propane and butane, rise to the top. Medium fractions, petrol, jet fuel, diesel, condense at different levels in the middle. The heaviest fractions, fuel oil, bitumen, sink to the bottom. But simply separating what is already there is not enough. Modern refineries use cracking processes, catalytic cracking, hydrocracking, to break heavy molecules into lighter, more valuable ones. Because the world wants more petrol and jet fuel than crude oil naturally provides, refineries chemically reshape the molecules to produce what is needed. A single barrel of crude oil, 159 litres, typically produces approximately 70 litres of petrol, 40 litres of diesel, 16 litres of jet fuel, and the remainder becomes heating oil, lubricants, asphalt, and petrochemical feedstocks for making plastics. The refinery is where a barrel of crude oil, identical at its origin, branches into dozens of different products, each heading to a different destination. From the refinery, refined products travel by a different pipeline network, smaller, more local, or by road tanker, to fuel, storage depots and distribution terminals. A petrol tanker truck carries approximately 30,000 litres of fuel. It collects from the distribution terminal and delivers to petrol stations on a regular schedule, sometimes daily for busy stations. Underground, beneath every petrol station, sit storage tanks. The tanker pumps its delivery down into these tanks through hatches in the forecourt. The fuel sits there under the ground until you drive in and fill up. And so the journey ends. A molecule of crude oil that formed from ancient sea life millions of years ago. That was trapped in rock beneath the seabed. That was drilled, separated, piped, shipped across oceans, cracked and refined, trucked across a city, and is now burning in your engine, moving you down the road. 3 minutes at a petrol station. Millions of years in the making, thousands of kilometres of infrastructure connecting them. The next time you fill your tank, you are standing at the final point in one of the most extraordinary supply chains ever built. Every litre of fuel represents the combined work of geologists, drilling engineers, pipeline operators, tanker crews, and refinery workers on multiple continents, many of whom have never met and never will. This is what the oil and gas industry actually is, not just drilling rigs and oil wells. It is a global system of extraordinary complexity built over a century that underpins almost everything the modern world depends on. Subscribe to Oil and Gas Explained for more videos like this one. Next week, we are going inside a refinery, the full story of how crude oil is transformed, what the different processes actually do, and why some refineries are worth more than the oil fields that feed them. See you then.